Hey everybody, I am not here today as my wife is having surgery, and so instead you get this super awkward video. You are going to learn today about motivation in the workplace. Big things you should take out of this is what a personnel psychologist does, what an organizational psychologist does, and kind of what's involved with that. You're also going to have a lot of time to work on your study guides, so most of you should be able to get that done in class today. Freud said a lot of crazy stuff, but one of the things he actually said that was right was a healthy life is this good combo of love and meaningful work. And what they found is that how you view your work affects how you view yourself and your life. So there are those people that view their work as a job. These are people that are like, okay, I got to go make some money. So you go there, you do whatever your job is, you get your paycheck, you go home, don't really think about it. There are some people that have a career, and what motivates them really to drive in their work is this day to day one step up, like keep going up. Like first, like you start off with like by yourself at an entry level position, then you go up to the next position, then you go up and you go up and you go up, and then eventually you run the CEO. You're the CEO. That's a great example of what is work. Excuse me, not work. What is a career? A calling is different than either. So a person that has a job has very low motivation to really do well. A person that has a career has pretty high motivation because they want to go. A person that has a calling has the highest motivation because this is somebody that feels that what they're doing is socially meaningful. Um, like I, for example, like over the top, probably have a calling in my career. Like I would honestly be a teacher for free. I love teaching. It's my all-time favorite thing to do. Um, that is an example of a calling. When we're working, we have two different like spots that we can be. So sometimes we start off and we have no work. We don't care. We're apathetic. So like if you're doing something in class that you really don't have to pay attention to, like you don't have to pay attention to it. You're not motivated to pay attention to it. So you just don't do anything. If you've ever gotten near finals time and you have a whole bunch of tests getting out, you know that too much work yields you not really getting much done, but instead just yields you freaking out about how much work you have to do. What you need to get into is a flow. I've used to flow hard all the time when I was a kid playing video games is the best example. Like where you're sitting there or reading a book or something, where you're sitting there and 3 hours passes and you look up and you're just like, whoa, like that went quick. Um, Flow is where you are not focusing on how much you have to do or anything, but instead you're just working and grinding. In industrialized countries, they've seen that those people that are unemployed, be whatever reason they are, they could choose to be unemployed, whatever, have a much lower satisfaction with their life than people that are doing like challenging work. So manual labor jobs have even less satisfaction with themselves than people that are doing more like white collar jobs, like what we consider typical office jobs. A personnel psychologist is going to be somebody that looks at how to best select people for a position. And that might seem kind of weird to you guys because like, you're used to most of the places you guys have applied, they really haven't got that in depth with who you are. They just look at you like, all right, can you work? Are you capable of doing this? Are you reliable? Great, you're hired. What a personnel psychologist does is they really help the organization see like, okay, what does this position need? And then they fill that position the best they can. So what they're trying to do is they're trying to match strengths with strengths. So for example, um, a computer programmer that does quality control on apps. Like you're not going to go out and get somebody that's very artsy and free spirited because that's not a job that requires that. Like maybe to be the design person, but you don't want to get the wrong people in for the right job. What you need is the right people. And so finding out the best way to get those people is actually really hard. So One of the ways that we think that we can do it is through interviews. And that used to be the most popular way, but what they found is it actually doesn't work as well as they thought. What you get is actually, they call it the interviewer's illusion. So, for example, like I can remember specifically interviewing once, and they said, like, are you really good at, like, how would you describe yourself at, what was it? How would you describe yourself, your ability to stay on top of things? Well, I was like, oh, I'm amazing at it. I'm very organized. And at that point in my life, I was the least organized person on earth. I meant it. I thought like, hey, like I can do this. But then eventually, after probably a couple of months of working there, I would have quit, like trying and quit being organized because I just would have fallen back into my old habits. So I can say whatever I want, and it's hard for an interviewer to see if that's true. Um, Interviewers only focus on their successes; they really don't focus on their failures. When a candidate walks in and he's wearing jorts and a cut off t-shirt, that person isn't going to be taken seriously. But that probably could have been the guy that would have been best for the job. But the second they walk in, they're instantly judged. Same thing with a somebody that's really sharply dressed. Just because they're sharply dressed doesn't mean they're going to be the best. What they found is the best way to do it is actually use a structured interview, and that's what they do at Monticello High School for people. They figure out what the job needs. They have a scripted set of questions, and then they have like a list of answers underneath. So I've done this at like Springfield Southeast High School. I applied there several years ago, and the first thing they did was I had to take a test to see if my personality fit the teachers that they needed there. Then once I passed that test, they interviewed me, but they recorded it, and then a group of people went back, watched the recording, and scored me. And then from there, I got another round of interviews, but by that point, I had already taken a job at St. Thomas More, and so I didn't take it. But that is an example of what a structured interview looks like. It's not just, hey, you seem cool, let's work together. It's really driving down into, are you going to be the right person for this job? Let's get that. A personnel psychologist, excuse me, the main thing that they do is they figure out what the job is. So we'll go like this. They figure out what the job is. Then they find that person, and then they take all of these things, references, testing, interviews, everything together, coming in to help with a selection. But it doesn't end there. That person also has to make sure that they are put into that position. Um, Afterwards too, they have this appraisal process where there is lots of different things going on at once to bring them all together. Like, so how do we know that they're being successful instead of just generally saying it? An organizational psychologist looks at how to make the organization, how to make the company better by having more motivated workers. And what they've studied in this is they've found that people that know what their job is, that they like the work that they're doing, they feel like it has a meaning behind it, they feel like they're part of a bigger thing. That is how people are motivated. And so again, at Morningstar, like it was very much about like we are doing meaningful work that is changing the world that needs to be done, and you are playing an intricate part of that. And I don't know if that was really how they felt, but it seemed that way to me at the time, and it helped make me really motivated to be successful there. Part of organizational leadership is social leadership, is finding ways to engage your either coaching or your athletes or your workers by allowing them to buy in and to feel like they are involved in the coaching process and that their opinions matter. So Larry Brown, who's a famous coach, used to say 5 positive things for every 1 negative thing. Like that set the tone for him and for his team that they were in the process of working and getting better, not just there to demean each other. So um, one of the things that goes inside of organizational leadership and good leadership in general is finding out what people's strengths are and bringing those up to the front, and then finding people's weaknesses and finding ways to help them either better them or cover them up. Everybody has weaknesses. A good leader doesn't sit there and yell at you to improve your weaknesses. Like, obviously, if you wanted to do that, or if you were able to do that, you would have previously. It's going to take time and energy and patience. Instead, what a good leader does is it puts you in a position to be successful.